He wants a big sister figure. She might not.
Bob asked, I was like, right? And then I got this email.
Omar.
Nice to meet you. I'm Abby. I'm one of the Hi, I'm Abby. Nice to meet you. Absolutely, yeah. It's a year-long tradition. Project-based, I kind of did my figure out where to bounce off of. No, it's not. It's figuring out where I'm going to Carolina. Well, I love Carolina, and I did research there during the year. That's what I was going to ask. I didn't see it. I worked for Dr. Robert Allen. He was technically he was in another department. He was the head of the honors college. I decided that before I came, I had no idea.
We had a great time. We ended our day with a long day. We had a good time. His back to Sally are good friends. I flew back with him and was happy. Psychology, yeah, but most of my work is neurologist. We do a lot of imaging work.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians.
Had a good visit.
Happy Friday. I have to start with Bob. When Bob sent in an invitation or an email to ask it for Sergeant of Arms volunteers, I was like, sure, I could do that for 5 minutes. Sounds like a cool title, command and presence for a little bit of speaking. And then I get the email that has all the rules and the regulations and the best practices. And in that, are 2 pages of, you have to tell a joke, but don't Google the joke. Don't tell a dad joke. Be careful about the joke. And I thought, oh my gosh. And now standing up here, I'm feeling a little bit of pressure. But anyway, happy Friday. I'm glad to be here with you all for lunch. Do we have visiting Rotarians today? Yay.
I'm Deborah DeCamelis from the North Raleigh Club, and I am the district membership chair for this year.
How about visiting our club today?
Any guests?
Hey, can I introduce, so he's kind of he's more than a guest and he's not quite a member, but he's been voted on by the board and just has to go through the formalities. You know, I don't like bureaucracy. So my friend Mike McMillan, who I think
Linda's going to do our invocation for today. Thanks, Elisa. So please join me in this blessing. We give thanks for the opportunity to be a Rotarian. Rotarians dig wells for which we will never drink. We vaccinate children we will never meet. We restore eyesight for those who will never see. We build housing we will never live in. We educate children we will never know. We plant trees we will never sit under. We feed hungry people regardless of race or politics. We know real happiness, which, as Albert Schweitzer once said, can only be found by helping others. For this opportunity, we give thanks. Thank you, Linda. That was beautiful. So my name is Lisa Lakeview, and I am new to the club. I am currently the assistant police chief for the town of Chapel Hill, and I'm going to put a plug in here because we all know Chris Blue, who is a member and is not here today, is retiring. So I intend to fill that seat here early next year. I'm really happy to be part of the Rotary. Very brief story, because that's part of the instructions, brief and talk slow. I was first introduced to Rotary as a 4-year-old. My parents belonged to Rotary in Toronto, Canada, and they would bring me to sit outside the meeting while they had their meetings and fun. I also had the opportunity to be a Rotary Exchange member in both Japan and France for grades 11 and 12. In high school. So I'm very fond of Rotary and have great memories, and was presented with great opportunities to help shape my, my professional and personal lives. Okay, now for the joke. So remember, Bob gave me all these rules and regulations, and I panicked and had some sweat for a little bit because jokes are not on my front. And then he wrote me an email and said, just tell bad crook jokes. Right? Please, bad crook jokes. I'm like, okay, I could probably stand up here and tell 1,000, but probably 999 wouldn't be appropriate. So then he said, and if you can bring a Rotary member into your story, that's always helpful and gets a good laugh. He also, just as a note, told me if nobody laughs, just stop. So I thought about it, and I thought, okay, well, what better way to include a Rotary member than to include Chief Blue? And I harassed him before I got here today because I said, you're not even here, so I'm going to go all out with this story. So when you see him, make sure you tell him about this story, or at least, acknowledge that he was part of it. So way back when, 20 years plus, we were sitting around one night on shift, and we had this warrant for arrest for this individual, and it was a serious crime. And we were discussing about how we would go about arresting him safely for that individual and all of us. And we knew he was a person that was known to us and had a lot of police interactions. And we knew that he resided with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend was a host at one of the restaurants that police officers frequent. If you know police officers, you know that they eat in packs and they only go to certain places. So we would always go to this one restaurant, and this woman, she was mean. I don't know how else to say it. She was just plain mean. and she did not like us. So we were discussing, hey, how can we do this and effect this arrest safely? So we decide on a plan. We all go, we knock on the door. There was probably 4 to 6 of us. Again, this was a pretty heinous crime, and we had had previous interactions with this individual. So we go into the house, she lets us in, she's not happy to see us, and she tells us under no certain terms, exactly where we could go that day. But anyway, we knock on the door, she lets us in, we look through the whole apartment, don't find anyone. And it's a small apartment, it's one of those that has an open kitchen and living room, you can see into a bedroom off to the side, and it has a suspended ceiling with the tiles in it, they can pop up. That's paramount to the story in just a minute. So we look through the apartment and we can't find him. So 4 of us, go outside and we're, continue our plan. What's the next plan of action? But Chris is inside talking, and we assume he's talking to the woman. He's a talker, right? He can snooze his way into anything. So we pay no attention, just figure he's in there talking. Well, all of a sudden, this scream, and it's not like a blood-curdling scream like somebody's in trouble. It's like a scream like you're scared, right? Or you're shocked. You're shocked to see something. So we all go running back in, and here's Chris' legs suspended from the ceiling, the drop-down ceiling, through the ceiling. And we're taking this all in, and the woman that doesn't like us is just screaming in the background at all of us, and she's holding a chair. So we're taking all this in, and we're trying to figure out what is going on when, as we're thinking, simultaneously we hear this big crash. Officers go running into the bedroom, and they find the suspect, the person we arrested, had fallen through the ceiling and was laying on the bed. Chris is still yelling because his arms are holding him up. He can't, he jumps, and it wasn't that great of a fall, but it was going to hurt. It was going to shock him if he jumps down. So, and he's hanging there. And so we're all like, what's going on? So we, of course, our attention's on the suspect, arrest him. Chris is still screaming. So finally, we're like, what happened here? We get Chris down, and he said, well, I was on my way out, and I saw like the ceiling tile just pushed to the side, so I thought, maybe I should look up there. So I pulled a chair over from the kitchen, and I stood up on it, and I went up to the ceiling tile, and I came face to face, like when we're talking face to face, nose to nose with this guy. They both shouted at the same time because they shocked each other, and the woman that hates us pulls the chair out from under us. So, when you see him, make sure you tell him about this story. All right, so I'm on time. I've got 1 minute left. Fine basket. So I decided, I was thinking about this and looking through, remember what I was told not to Google? I had to Google to find out, okay, what do you find? And I decided that it made sense that I find myself $20 for the 3 weeks that I haven't been here.
Wow, that's generous.
Yes.
So you want us to be
So I want you all, who haven't been here. And I'm going to turn it over to Omar to introduce our speaker. It sounds like we have a great next 30 minutes.
Thank you, Salisa. This is our Carborough Police Chief. Anyone is ever in trouble in Carborough, it's always good to have a friend.
Chapel
Hill, sorry. My apologies. We have one induction today. Before we start the induction, really quick, Linda sent me a list of the people who've had a birthday this past week. I always like to recognize our birthday people. If you're here, stand up, and then we'll give you a round of applause. There's about 7 people. We'll announce them all together. Robert Spranzi, John Frick, Mike Clayton, Nick Vaughn, Courtney Knoll, Tom Shea, and Freddie Kiger. If you are here, please stand up. Happy birthday. We're going to do a real quick, former President Pat is going to come up. He has an announcement. And then we're going to hand it off to you, Jim, to announce our speaker.
Hey y'all, this falls under the latest award ever to be given in the history of mankind. So back when we switched presidencies, I gave the Rotarian of the Year award to somebody who wasn't in the room. So I want to just briefly summarize this and give it to him today. So Rotarian of the Year award is one of our most prestigious awards in the club. It's just above and beyond service in a service club. So Rotarian of the Year for last year was Felix Murithi. Yeah. Felix means so much to this club, but just briefly, during my presidency, the hardest job you can have in Rotary is one in which you have to participate every week. It's a grind. Felix had 2 jobs where he had to do them every week. He was our technology advisor. By the way, he's not in technology at all. He just agreed to do it. But every week he was here setting up what at that time was Zoom. The second thing he did was we sent out a bulletin every week, and the bulletin's kind of a hodgepodge of different people doing different things. He would organize it and send it out every single week. It's above and beyond. Felix is so important to this club. He had to take a 2-month hiatus after that, but just such a great member of this club. We really value. I thank you so much for everything you've done, not only last year, but in previous years as well. If you come on up, I'd love to give you this award.
Thank you so much, President Pat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, President Pat. It's a great honor to be nominated for this award. It actually feels like the Oscars. And I want to thank a few people. I want to start with my very good friend and colleague and my mentor, Alan Young, for introducing me to East Chapel Hill Rotary Club in 2017. If it was not for him, I would not have met all of you. And to the last year communication team of Jim Hebner, Steve from President Pat, and Lori, this is for you. Thank you.
Felix doesn't know, but we put the stage up here for him. Real quick, Linda, do you want to mention what's going on over the next few weeks?
Yeah, so just for awareness, there is a litter sweep. You know how I love to talk trash, right? So there is a litter sweep going on right now, and I will send this out to everybody via our Rotary email. There's a North Carolina litter sweep that started on the 10th of September, goes through the 24th. Do this on an individual basis. Get your family, get your friends. Help us clean up North Carolina and have it shine as the brand that we want it to be. So I'd encourage you to participate, in that. And then just a quick update, we will have our next official club litter pickup in the middle of October, and that will be along Estes Drive, Franklin Street. Many of you have participated. Love to have everybody else join us too. So thanks.
Thank you, Linda. And Linda, if you could send out maybe a copy of that flyer through DACDB, that'd be great. We have a cookout next week at my house. We've sent out the e-bite. I've sent it out through DACDB. Please respond. We've probably gotten about 30% of the e-bite responses. We're going to cut off the e-bite, I think, on Tuesday, because I got to go to the store and get some food. And you can still come after Tuesday. You just won't have anything to eat. But we really we'd love it if you could attend. It is members only. That way we can all get to know each other and have a little bit more fellowship. So again, that's next Thursday at my house. I'm going to hand it over to Jim Hebner, who is going to handle the induction and then the introduction of our speaker.
up on a stage now. This, for Chancellor, we brought in a stage just for you. It leaves at about 2 o'clock. That's an old joke. So there are no events that take place in our club's business that's more important than the induction of a new member who brings us new ideas, new leadership, and enriches the club's fellowship. This is certainly the case today, and as it is my pleasure to assist in the induction of Erica Verona Shutt. Erica, will you and your sponsor, Jennifer Player, please come forward? It's the pleasure of knowing Erica's mom and dad very well. And in fact, Erica's mom plays mahjong with Pam every week, and so she brings home all of the gossip, and we hear about all the things that really matter from the mahjong group. But it gives me an extra measure of joy to see this next generation coming forward. Erica, in February of 1905, Paul Harris assembled a group of Chicago's leaders to form the first Rotary Club for the purpose of building trust, building through fellowship and trust, a better community. It was a historic occasion. As you have learned from your orientation with Peggy, and that each of us needs to be reminded, it is now Rotary International with over 33,000 Rotary clubs in 200 countries and 1.5 million members. Why that matters to you is that you are a member of all of those clubs, and you will be welcomed at any of them at any time. And those members for the last century have pledged a set of values that Paul Harris created back then that have achieved an iconic status and known around the world, and it's the Rotary four-way test. Now, when you accept this pen from Jennifer and agree to accept membership in the East Chapel Hill Rotary Club, we ask you to do so only if you join us in making that same commitment to it that we believe is more important than ever. So, just to make sure you know it, I want to ask you to repeat after me. The things that we say and do, please repeat after me. Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
So now, our club, in your club, which has its 55th anniversary next February, is celebrating the rejuvenation of this club by the kind of leadership, quality leadership, that we expect from new members like Erica. And we expect you to embrace those. So now, Jennifer, if you will, please attach the Rotary pen. And with that, Erica, you're now part of the family, a member of East Chapel Hill Rotary. Welcome and congratulations. So if we look at the biography today, I told the Chancellor where it says opens a new school year with a full agenda of change. Now, this is true. This would have been true of every chancellor since this university began. As a matter of fact, trying to study the history of this university, this will probably not surprise you, Kevin, that the first chief officer of the university, who at that time I believe was called the proctor or something to that effect, he lasted 10 months before they threw him out. The second one actually made it through a full year, but resigned because he couldn't get along with the faculty, and so he resigned to rejoin the faculty. And that is the story of our university. Please give East Chapel Hill Rotary to a terrific chancellor, perfect for our times, Kevin Guskovic.
Well, thank you, Jim, and it's great to be back. It's been a while, and as I was walking up here, I was trying to count the number of the months. I've made it a little bit longer than those two proctors, but I'm at about 3.5 years now. And as I've said, easy is boring, right? And it certainly has not been boring. But thanks for the opportunity to come today and share some thoughts and updates from the university, and then a chance to answer any questions you might have about where we're headed and the direction that we're on. But there's a lot of incredible things happening at UNC Chapel Hill. I often start an event like this or a talk like this by saying it's a great day to be a Tar Heel. And it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. And we welcome back, and I want to go over a few things that we're proud of, but we welcome back students on the 15th of August. Hard to believe we're already in the 5th week of the semester. It seems like just yesterday we were standing at convocation out there at the Smith Center, welcoming 5,400 new first-year students. It's last year was the largest class of incoming students that we had, and this year we almost got there, about 45, 50 short of having the largest class in Carolina's history. But 18% are first-generation college students. This is something we're really proud of, is that we admit students that have earned their way, their path to Carolina, and we do everything to make sure that they can afford to come to Carolina. 18% first gens, representing 95 North Carolina counties, 48 states, and 85 countries. This is the most diverse group that we brought to Carolina in terms of international students. It's the largest group of international students we've ever had. And that's pretty, I think, an important fact, given that we're still coming out of the pandemic, as you know, and that we were able to accomplish this. I've talked over and over about the importance of being a leading global public research university, and I tell people that we got the public part down. The first of the publics, we're the most public of the publics. We're passionately public, everything that we do. We've got the research part down. Last year we brought in over $1.2 billion in research funding to UNC Chapel Hill. That really, and I tell people, it's not about the dollar amount, but it's about the impact that those dollars ultimately have. But it's the global part that I've been continuing to underscore and emphasize, that we have to prepare our graduates to think beyond the boundaries of North Carolina, beyond the boundaries of the borders of the U.S., but to think about the world that we live in today. And while most of our graduates, many of our graduates will reside right here and work in the state of North Carolina, we have to be thinking about the global connections and the importance of the world beyond the U.S. So how are we doing that? Well, we have just introduced our new general education curriculum. It's called Ideas in Action. This is something that most universities will do about every 12 to 15 years. They'll review and then revamp their general education curriculum. This is the curriculum that every student, every undergraduate student has to take, regardless of whether they're a physics major, an English major, a political science major, a chemistry major. And we're really excited about this new gen ed curriculum. It's unique. We're trying something that no other university has tried to do. We're teaching a new course called Information, Ideas, and Inquiry. It's abbreviated for Triple I. It's our Triple I course, and it's co-taught by 3 faculty from 3 different disciplines. And we're teaching them how our faculty solve the grand challenges of our time. We have one on climate change. We have one on health disparities. We have one on happiness and wellness and mood disorders. But the faculty are there every day, all 3 of them. But the one on mood, happiness and wellness is taught by a faculty member in psychology that teaches mood, and has written some of the incredible works on mood and the importance of happiness and upward mobility. Co-taught by a sociologist that teaches migration, and then an exercise physiologist that teaches the effects of exercise on cancer rehabilitation. And so it's just one example of one of these Triple I courses. It's very focused on interdisciplinary work. We want to prepare our students to be able to pivot later in life. We graduate more students with double majors or a major and a minor than any of our peers, and that's really important if you think about the way in which, think about the jobs that are going to exist in the year 2074, whenever this group that just came in will be thinking about retiring. I told them at convocation, you're going to walk across Keenan Stadium, across the field in 4 years from now, roughly around 2024, 2025. But you're going to be retiring from your career in around 2074, 2075. What careers, what jobs are going to be out there at that time? So we're preparing students for jobs that don't even yet exist. Second point I want to make is our rankings. And I just am working on an op-ed piece that will probably be published, I hope, sometime next week in the NNO and the Charter Observer. Rankings, college rankings are important, but I tell people we can't rest on our laurels. You may have seen that we, this past Monday, announced that we, again, for the 27th consecutive year, Carolina ranked as a top 5 public universities, ranked by U.S. News and World Report. And the rankings are important, but again, just like I said, the research dollars, it's not about the number, it's about the impact. We've got the ranking I'm most proud of, and that is that for 19 years in a row, we've maintained our ranking as the #1 public in best value. What does that mean? It means that we're not only affordable, but we're really good. And where's Jody Magnus? I talk about our world-class faculty all the time. Where's Jody? A perfect example of a world-class faculty that we have at Carolina. Any other current faculty members? I see a few retired faculty, but thanks for all you do. Jody takes students every year on a dig. And what you've been able to do with the students. It's about the experiential education that our students get, whether it's working with world-class faculty in the research, whether it's internship opportunities or study abroad. Jody's kind of built in 2 of those at least. And that's what differentiates us from our peers. So best value is really important, and I think it shows the excellence combined with the affordability that really, to me, it is, I tell people we are the university of the people from North Carolina, and we're preparing the next generation of leaders. And we're going to be out on a bus tour. I just want to mention this. I think when I last came to talk to you in 2020, we had just come off of Tar Heel bus tour, which Michael Hooker started back in 1997. He took a group of, on one bus of about 45, 50 faculty out across the state of North Carolina to visit the towns and communities that our students called home. And for some reason, that ended. He did it for 10, 11 years. Michael, sadly, as you know, was only with us for 4 or 5 of those years. James Measer carried on for a few years, but then we got away from it. But I brought it back in 2019, then the pandemic came. We're doing it again this year. We just launched, we had a great celebration and the team's all ready to go. We've identified the faculty and staff that are going to be out there on this tour on October the 19th, 20th, 21st. So we're going to take 2 buses out across the state, an east bus and a west bus, to really help our faculty, especially some of the new faculty, see what North Carolina is all about, see how their impact can even have a greater impact on the citizens of North Carolina in ways they may have never imagined. So we're excited about that. Third, I already mentioned the $1.2 billion in research, but we're really driving innovation and impact in areas ranging from gene therapy, drug development, my own area of traumatic brain injury. Really proud of the work that we've been able to do there. As I look back at Dick Fedor, who was here, when I first got here, and I had to have the access to our student athletes at Carolina and our coaches to buy into this. And as a result of that, that was a bold idea, and no other university in the country would take that on at that time. And UNC Chapel Hill did. Mac Brown and I joked about this because he and I were giving a talk a few weeks ago in front of a group, and I talked about, when Mac was here, when I got here in '95, and he was, I had a football coach who was going to allow me to use football players as study subjects, study participants, and I had to go and make this pitch to Mac, and he bought it. He said, "Yep, let's go for it." And as a result, we built the concussion protocol for the NFL, the NCAA, and the NHL. Mac and I were giving a talk, and I told that story as I introduced him, and he came up to the podium and he said, "Well, the truth is," he said, "I knew that in '95, whenever Kevin came to me and asked me that when Sally and I were going to come back, he'd be the chancellor then, so I probably better say yes." But in Mac Brown's style, there's no truth to that, I don't think. But Mac is, we put a microphone in front of Mac, and he's going to always tell some fun stories and wow the crowd. So anyhow, we're changing the world through our research, and I'm really excited about that. We were just down in the Galapagos. Amy and Tessa and I went down with a group of faculty and senior administrators down to the Galapagos. We have the Galapagos Science Center, and if you ever get a chance, you need to go and see it. It's incredible. We are in a partnership there with the University of San Francisco de Quito, and we own a building there, right? It overlooks Darwin's Cove, and there's incredible work that's being done there. And we had celebrated the 10-year anniversary of that back in June on a conference that we hosted on island sustainability. And so again, just another example of our work. We cover everything from, as I already said, traumatic brain injury and cancer, to island sustainability, to social justice, human rights issues, and more. Fourth point, and then I'm going to save some time for some Q&A. We had our best year in fundraising ever at the history of the university, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. We had a $4.25 billion goal for this campaign for Carolina that we announced about 6 years ago. And we announced that December 31st of 2022, which is we're about 3 months away, would end that capital campaign. But on January the 13th of 2022, we announced that we hit that $4.25 billion goal. Wow. And essentially 11 months in advance. And so we have, somebody said, are we going to stop? And I said, no, we're not stopping. We have 11 and a half months to go. And since that time, we raised, again, $800 million this year. We're headed to $5 billion. That will be the largest capital campaign in any university in the South, and probably the second among all public universities in the country when we finish that campaign on December 31st. And we're going to have a big celebration at the Eddie Smith Fieldhouse on November the 18th to really celebrate this incredible accomplishment. But it's about the impact that those dollars will have on our world-class faculty, our incredibly curious students, and our staff. And I always want to talk about our staff because they are important. I tell people that we have 30,000 students, we have about 4,000 faculty, and about 15,000 staff that really make the place run and operate. And we've got to do everything we can, working really hard to be sure that we are getting salary increases for our staff to support the enterprise that we have. It's a $3.8 billion a year enterprise, and it takes a lot of dedicated quality staff to make sure that we can carry out all these great things that we're doing. So, and then how could I forget? I mentioned Mac earlier, but in case you haven't noticed, we are 3-0 in football. And we had them all the way. Every one of those games, I mean, we had that game won, but we wanted to make it a little bit interesting. And but as you know, it's not just about football and basketball. It gets a lot of exposure, but couldn't be happier with our field hockey team is again having an incredible season. Both men's and women's soccer, the baseball team back in the spring. We would have never thought the way that the middle of the season went for those of you that go to those games that we were going to end up making a run. Almost got to Omaha, but we came up a game or two short. But I'm a big believer in the importance of intercollegiate athletics on college campuses. It's part of our fabric. It's really important. And we have Notre Dame coming next weekend, and we're going to be 4-0. I had to tell you though, this is as close as I can come to a joke, and it's not as good as yours. But we were flying back from Atlanta on Saturday, and I was down there doing some fundraising, and went to Charlie Loudermilk's funeral in Atlanta that was on Thursday. Andrew Young eulogized Charlie Loudermilk. Charlie loved Chapel Hill and he loved Atlanta, and he did a lot for both of those communities. But to hear Andrew Young at the pulpit talking about his best friend, Charlie Loudermilk, it was really incredible. And I got to thank Andrew and spend some time with him. Told him I wrote a paper about him in my 10th, when I was in a sophomore in college. I wrote a paper about Andrew Young, who was mayor of Atlanta at that time, the first black mayor of a major city. And to have a chance to meet him was great. But getting back to my joke, partial joke, we're flying home from Atlanta because I stayed for the game, and I'm sitting there with Mac and Sally and Bubba Cunningham and myself, and we were watching the Notre Dame game, and they had just lost. In case you didn't hear, they lost last week, and they're going to Marshall. Marshall. It was on to Marshall. And so we were flipping the channel to watch a different game, and we hit this turbulence that there were the flight attendants were falling on top of one another. And I mean, I've been on a lot of flights, but I have never experienced turbulence like that. And I said, Bubba, I said, he's angry because Notre Dame just lost. And they're coming to Chapel Hill. Looked over Mac and I said, Mac, you're ready for me. He said, don't worry, we got next week off we have an off week to warm up for him. So anyhow, you know, a lot of exciting things happening on campus. But we're not without challenges. I mean, we certainly have our challenges on campus, and my sort of motto in higher ed in general, I would just say we have a lot of challenges. But I've said we're built for this, and that's sort of been our theme for this year. We've been through a lot, not just over the past 2 or 3 years, but we've been through as a university, when you're as old as we are, coming up on 228 years old, you're going to have always had to overcome challenges. And so our theme has been this year, we're built for this, and this is really the challenges that we face. And let me just name a few. I mean, we live in an increasingly polarized society. There are threats on our democracy. A lot of career uncertainty for our students and difficulties with recruitment of staff that COVID has sort of introduced. But we've learned from that, and I've said over and over that the role and the responsibility of a leading global public research university is to be studying these issues. We have, you know, we can talk about all the work that our faculty in the School of Medicine and Public Health have done to find the diagnostics and the treatments for COVID. We led the way. Harvard and Carolina led the way for 3 years in the pandemic on drug discovery and diagnostics for COVID. That's incredible. But we're also, thank you. And we're also leading these issues around democracy. Our political science faculty, our faculty in sociology and other areas in social work, these are big issues that a lot of other universities sometimes won't take on. And we do this and we do it well, and we'll continue to do it. People ask me sometimes, why does the WRAL news truck show up in front of the South Building every other day? And I said, it's because we matter. That's the bottom line. Carolina matters, and we do a lot of great work, and we want it that way. And people have opinions about the work that we do, and we want it that way too. And so, you know, a lot of questions that I think that need to be answered across our state around public health, social justice issues, economic inequalities, and more. But again, I think we're a strong university that can handle the problems of our community, our country, and the world, and we're going to continue to take on those big issues. We have a great strategic plan that I believe when I was here last, I was telling you we were about to launch it, called Carolina Next, Innovations for Public Good. And couldn't be happier with where we are now, about 2.5, coming up on 3 years after we launched that plan. We stayed true to that plan throughout the pandemic. You know, I think that we're poised to make certain that we can address these issues around democracy. Promoting democracy is one of the 8 strategic initiatives in that plan. Career development for faculty, staff, students is a second one. And then making certain that we're a research innovation powerhouse. And that's the third one that we're really focused on for this year, and emphasizing those 3 initiatives out of the 8 that we have in the plan. And that's what I'm really focusing on now, and pushing our university forward on these critical issues. And as I said earlier, preparing the next generation of leaders. And so we need to be sure our students know those pathways to success. We're revamping career services and bringing industry leaders in that want to hire our students to help us better understand how we can provide a better career services program. In fact, we're going to change the name of it, because career services just sounds kind of antiquated. People don't really know what it means. And so we wanted something that's more along the lines of career pathways. And so we're working hard at that. And our new Gen Ed curriculum that I mentioned earlier is going to allow us to do that. And then our research and finding solutions to the world's biggest problems will be something that we'll continue to do. University Day, and you're all invited. We have plenty of room in Memorial Hall, October the 12th, where we'll celebrate our 228th birthday. But we'll focus on one of those problems and the ways in which we're working collaboratively to solve issues around clean water and clean air, some environmental issues that we're taking on and tackling at Carolina. Finally, in our world today, we need informed citizens who can strengthen democracy in our country. And I encourage you to take a look at our new program for public discourse. This is one that we started 4 years ago, and it's bringing together many different departments across campus, and it's a program that it faced some criticism whenever the idea surfaced 4 years ago about starting this program. We had 4 faculty council meetings over this idea of a program for public discourse, but they were good, healthy debates. And I often say that at any leading global public research university, you're going to have some tension at times across the different faculty units on campus, across the administration and faculty, between the board of trustees and the faculty. And it's a healthy tension that moves us forward. And we moved this program into a really healthy place. We've raised over $15 million to launch the program. And as I like to tell people, and I think you'd be proud of this, this is what we should be doing. We're teaching our students how to think, not what to think. And that's the goal of this program. And I encourage you to come to some of the program that's there. A lot of the programs are, they're sort of presented to you virtually as well as in person. We have an event coming up at the Mandela Auditorium where I think Senator Tillis and a few others from DC will be down to have a healthy conversation on issues that we're facing here in North Carolina around the issues with the urban-rural divide that we see and some of the challenges there. So with that, I'm going to stop and just say thank you again for having me, and I'm happy if we have time. I'm more to take
20 minutes.
We still have 20 minutes, so I'd love to take questions.
Hey.
Okay. Kevin, my granddaughter is a freshman.
You want to so that we can hear you?
My granddaughter's a freshman and lives in Granville. I was with her last night, and she told me that she was afraid to go on Franklin Street. There incidences there of being threatened and a robbery or something. So,
Go ahead.
yeah, I couldn't believe it. So I was just wondering what the university's, how you deal with the safety issue. I mean, she was really afraid, and her friends were too. So I'm afraid too.
Yeah, so people ask me, what do I lose sleep over? I mean, I lose sleep over just the health and safety of our students on campus. And these safety issues range from the mental health challenges that we're facing to issues of that we see on not just Franklin Street, but anywhere on campus. And so there was an article, I don't know, a week or two ago that alluded to this. And I've had several conversations with the mayor, our police chiefs, Chief Blue and Chief Brian James work very closely together in a coordinated way. And we just have to sort of, we're listening to the community to find out what the concerns are. There's going to be, anytime you're in a college town, and the town of Chapel Hill, which we generally think is a safe place, there's always a lot of good things happening. There's always something bad happening. And we're putting more officers out in foot patrol, working closely with the town of Chapel Hill. We have an announcement that's going out on Monday or Tuesday that Chief Blue and Chief James have worked on to put safety tips out. These are things we have emphasized over and over to students on how to walk safely up and down Franklin Street or from Rosemary Street across over to campus back to your residential hall. And so I would encourage, if there are certain situations that your granddaughter or anybody in here is experiencing, we need to hear about them. I know that we have 2 very committed police forces, and I will tell you the Mayor Pam Heminger, who you all know, and I talked last Sunday about this and again on Tuesday to do everything we can to ensure the safety of our students, and not just our students, but citizens of Chapel Hill and faculty staff on campus.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for coming. So my question is a little bit the area of what keeps you awake at night, but you highlighted many accomplishments. Great job. Thank you. Congratulations. But what are some of the weaknesses of the schools? You our peers, where you see UNC weak and holes that have to get filled?
Yeah, great question around what are the challenges, the weaknesses. We have, it's an old campus. The meeting I was in right before this was talking with our Vice Chancellor for Research. And we have incredible faculty, world-class faculty, as I said, and researchers, but a lot of our facilities are aging, and a lot of original buildings that are in desperate need of repair. We're approaching about $900 million in deferred maintenance on our campus, and so that's a problem. But we got about $110 million from the General Assembly this year to begin to address those challenges. But as you know, one of the things coming out of COVID has been the escalating costs of construction and materials. There's a shortage of materials for construction. So we're working really hard to try to be sure that we have the facilities to. And let me say, there are safety concerns with facilities. We have 2 buildings on our campus that we had to vacate, entirely vacate, and sitting dormant for 1.5 years. One of the buildings, another one for closer to 3 years. Bingham Hall, those of you that are alums, Bingham Hall. It's right there next to Wilson Library, right in the heart of campus, has been vacated for nearly 3 years because there were challenges with mold and things. We have got to come up. We need resources to be sure that we have the facilities that gives us the capacity to provide what our students, faculty, and staff really need and what they deserve. So that's one of them. We have challenges around, I mentioned earlier, the issues of social justice and racial tension. It exists on every campus. We have got to do better there. We have lost faculty over some of the challenges that we've faced, whether it's looking back at the monument issues, to the tenure case from, about 18 months ago. And we have got to learn from those situations and do better. And I've written an op-ed on this, that we as an institution of higher learning, we have to always be willing to learn from when we could have done better, from mistakes, and we're committed to that, and we have a leadership team that's committed to that. And we have to continue to challenge one another. Our first priority in the strategic plan, Carolina Next, is to build our community together. And that is the one around creating this community where everybody knows their voice matters, that they belong on our campus. And so we're working really hard at that. And we have 8 strategic initiatives. That's the one that I said it had to be listed first, because if we get that one right, the one on discovery that's listed 6, or the one on global initiatives could go in any order. So if we get the first one right, we're going to be good on the others.
Tying in a little bit to that, I'm a board trustee at Wake Forest, and I went to med school at UNC, and so I know there is a big difference between a public school and a private school. And so your capital campaign intrigued me. Just a couple of top things that you designated you want this money to be used for. And then contrast for me what limitations or changes there are when you have to answer as a public university to
Great. I'll repeat the question. Essentially, about the campaign and Carolina was very successful. What are some of the top priorities and where the funding can have the biggest impact? And then how do we manage that across sort of being a public institution versus Wake Forest, where you serve as a board of trustee member?
Right.
And I hope you're proud of your Carolina medical degree.
Yes.
Great.
I'm really proud to hear you say all that stuff.
And when we
I'm taking it back to Wake and kind of.
And when the Tar Heels are playing the Demon Deacons, you root for?
Wake Forest.
I'm sorry, you broke up. I didn't. Okay, well, I'll answer the question. Scholarship and aid. So we, in that $4.25 billion goal in the capital campaign, $1 billion of it was set to really be able to be as affordable for every student that's earned their way to Carolina. So the Carolina Covenant Program, that's a program that we're now in its 20th year, not 19th, about to hit the 20th year of it. We are the envy of every other university in the country, private and public, because of what we did for the Carolina Covenant, with that Carolina Covenant program. That a student can come to Carolina, and we're one of only 2 publics that are fully need-blind admission, meaning that we admit our students regardless. We don't look whether they can afford to come. We admit them. If they say they're coming, we find a way to get them here. You know this. And so when 18% of that incoming class are first-generation college students, there's a lot of Covenant. 11% were Carolina Covenant students in this class. So we've got to have the dollars to do that. But and that program, just to put it in perspective, brings students here that come from a family of 4 with a median income of $30,000 or less. So think about that. and they graduate from Carolina, top 5 public university in the country, debt-free. But we have Blue Sky Scholars Program, which is something that Erskine Bowles was passionate about. And Erskine came at the beginning of the campaign and said, I want to do something for middle-income families. And so Erskine got behind this, and this is where Amy and I gave our gift this year, was to the Blue Sky Scholars, and that's making a huge impact. These are for kids that will graduate now. They may have $8,000 to $10,000, $12,000 in debt, but they are able to complete their Carolina degree with pretty much debt-free. So that's where we are, and I think that, to your second question, and I don't want to forget our faculty. Professorships is another area we're raising a lot of money for, and that's really important. We've got to, when you're a top 5 public university, everybody wants your talent. Exactly. And I don't want to, we're doing everything. We have about an 80% retention rate of faculty over the past 3 years that have been recruited by the universities, and I'm proud of that. And we got to do it because we have professorships. And then the public part of it is, I tell people all the time, we have a great campaign, $800 million this year, but the state of North Carolina, about $590 million came from the taxpayers in North Carolina. They are our taxpayers. Our taxpayers are our biggest donor to the University of North Carolina Chapel, about $590 million a year. And so I always work that in to say that's we're really, there's only 2 other system schools in the country that fund higher education better than the state of North Carolina does. And we have to remember that. So proud of that. And then we'll go over here.
Tagging along with kind of scholarships more on the athletic side, I swam at Carolina many, many years ago, and now I'm part of the wonderful Forever Her mentorship program. And I actually was meeting with my mentoree this morning, and she's a lacrosse player at Carolina. She's wonderful. But I was asking her how the NIL, which is name, image, likeness, is affecting her specifically. And I know it's a hard line, and I think you guys are learning how to deal with it, but I guess my question is, how does it help the women athletics? She said it was, again, kind of geared more towards men's football and men's basketball is where the most effects are being seen now. But I guess my question is, how is the university dealing with it? Because I feel like it can go corrupt pretty quickly, or not corrupt, but can go down a bad line. And how do you do it fairly without getting to, I guess?
It's a great question. So the question, for those of you, if you didn't hear, is around name, image, and likeness. I said I've been in this job about 3.5 years, and my first meeting of the ACC presidents was in New York City. The president from Syracuse hosted us there. We meet every spring and every fall, and this was in March of 2019. I've been in this job for about, at that point, about 5 weeks. And we sat around a dinner table in New York City and talked, 15 university presidents, and talked about how we had to protect amateurism in college sports. Vicki, that ship has sailed. That ship has sailed. And was that a hand you want to give to NIL? No. I'll get to it. But it is a challenge, and we have to be sure. Every institution has Title IX concerns. We have in Carolina. We're about 61% of our student body are women, 39% men. It fluctuates by a percentage point every year. And that's a factor that we have to look at whenever we set up, our sort of demographics of our college athletes, and it's tough. And we have to be sure with name, image, and likeness here, where we're going to be paying student athletes. We are paying student athletes now, that there are opportunities. And I will say, as you well know, women's lacrosse, tennis, golf, field hockey, soccer. They deserve, and they actually are earning NIL dollars. And so we have to be sure that we level the playing field with regard to that. But it's here, and it's probably here to stay. We had our ACC presidents meeting. It was hosted at that place down the road, about 8.5. From here, it's only probably about 5.5 miles. But we had the 15 presidents together just on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we spent a lot of our time talking about that. Jim,
another quick question on the budget. Well, a question that I'm frequently asked is: so we just raised $5 billion, okay? And
not there yet. We need your help us to get to $5 billion. We're getting close.
Not to do that. And we're building. We have new buildings. One of the university property buildings that we, not in the last 40 years, that we had less than $100 million in new construction. We're building new stuff all over the campus all the time, and yet our old buildings are rotting. So, do we have how to explain how that happens, and what can we do about making sure that the old house is as nice as the new house?
Yeah, great question. So this has to, the question, if you didn't hear it, was around how do we make sure that our older infrastructure and buildings is maintained and we can preserve some of these historic buildings while we're building more contemporary buildings. And so we're doing both. We have a master plan that the university had approved back in late 2019, and it shows where, there's a map of it, and you can access it online, and it shows the buildings that are really in desperate need of repair and could probably just benefit from taking them down and rebuilding on that site. And so we have a plan that's laying that out. There's not a lot of, we're kind of space constrained. And so we're talking about a new translational research building that'll go over near the medical school for animal research, and that's, we're working on that. We have Bingham Hall, as I already mentioned, that's a historic building, so we're gonna renovate that, similar to what we did with Murphy Hall and Carolina Hall a number of years ago. You can take those old buildings and really make them into nice, more contemporary feeling buildings. But we need new buildings too. We'll have a ribbon cutting ceremony soon for Roper Hall, which is our new medical education building. And it's going to be state of the art. But it takes really good engineers to help us determine when it's better just to implode, take down and rebuild versus restore. But we have to do both. Matt.
UNC provides a tremendous value in education, but we read a lot about student loans and the challenges. Talk to me about what the university's role in the student loan industry is and where we might be going, and whether you see any better solutions for those students that aren't part of got the name of what were their covenant. But the middle class students and the ones that are graduating with a lot of debt.
Yeah, great. Another good question around student debt and student loan, and so these would be sort of Pell Grant eligible students that are eligible to apply for student aid based on the income of the family that they're from. And Carolina, we're probably in the 23 to 26% of students are Pell eligible, and we're again Best Buy. So that's one of the things that we are very happy that we're able to do. We've kept tuition's been flat for 6 consecutive years. There's not other than Purdue and maybe a handful of others could stand here and say that they have kept tuition flat for 6 consecutive years. Now that comes at a price because with inflation, how do we keep up? How do we continue to pay world-class faculty and top talented staff to be able to meet that demand? This is where the fundraising comes into play. But those are the things that we do have control over that we're doing. We're keeping tuition flat. We're raising private money to support that need. But the decisions that were made that came out recently around foregoing the repayment of those loans, I've been asked about that over and over. And there are challenges there with it, and how we, what types of students are going to be, what's the future look like for that in terms of students who are going to be applying to Carolina with the uncertainty of whether or not their loans might be forgiven down the road. So a lot of uncertainty around it. I tell people all the time, we have to take control of things we have control over. It's keeping tuition as low as we can, keeping it as affordable as we can, and continue to raise the private dollar.
One more, Kevin.
Sure. Linda.
Kevin, this new data science program that's going on, is it underway there? Does it have students? And what's the goal?
Yeah, thank you. I skipped over in my comments, but we have launched a new school, first time in about 40 years that we've launched a new school at Carolina. And it's called the School of Data Science and Society. And if you think about something I mentioned earlier about what jobs we're preparing students for when they're going to be graduating or retiring, in 50 years from now. And there's one consistent theme is that data is so important, the way we capture data. If you think about cell phones and the way data are captured just from your cell phone, and how that data, how the data are aggregated and interpreted and then messaged, whether you're trying to build smart cities. I mean, the way data inform everything from new medical discoveries to building smart cities to managing cybersecurity and protecting our freedoms. I mean, data is so important. And we have a lot of great data scientists on our campus, but they were competing against one another, competing for the same research grants, competing for the best faculty. And finally we said, we're going to bring this all under one roof. I have to credit Bob Lewin, who I think has been to speak with you, and I know that certainly you all know Bob. He led the School of Pharmacy for many years and then was provost for 4 years. But this was sort of something he started 4 years ago, and we launched it in July. Stan Ahalt is the director of it. His old office was right across the road here at Renzi. But Stan is a genius when it comes to data science and computing. And he's the inaugural dean, and we'll be hiring 15 to 25 faculty over the next year and a half to lead the school, and then bringing faculty in from other schools and departments to partner with them with the idea that it'll be how we solve big problems in society, which is why most schools call their School of Data Science the School of Data Science. We added "and society" because it's about the application of the outcomes of the data analysis and the interpretation to solve big problems. So we're excited. It doesn't have a standalone building. We're calling it a school that has porous walls, meaning that people are coming and going and collaborating, and it really feeds this culture of collaboration that we're so proud of in Carolina. So thanks for asking. Great.
Kevin, thank you so much for coming to talk to us today, speak with us. Kevin and I met years ago when he was doing concussion research. I came in and he had his helmet with all these sensors on it, and he said that I was the only guy whose head was too large for that helmet to fit on. So I was never able to be part of that research, but I know you've done great things with that. I do want everyone to repeat after me. We're going to split this right down the middle. Tar, heels, tar, heels, tar, heels, tar, heels. Thanks, Kevin. Y'all have a great weekend. John, the heart's a state fan.
Joey and I were sitting in the front, Kat was sitting in the back. Come on in. Jump in. So me and my son had COVID, Kathy did not. She never did. She never did. She still has it. I still have it now. And I can't believe it. But had so much and you know, the other thing is we had, I did that with the Lymphoma Society. So we go there and we're thinking, oh boy, this is good.